She was fired for hiding her sick child in a storage room. He watched it happen and did nothing. But what this billionaire did next, it didn't just change her life. It changed everything I thought I knew about success, second chances, and what it really means to give someone hope when they have absolutely nothing left to lose. This is a true story, and I promise you by the end you'll see the world differently. Stay with me. Welcome to Voice of Granny. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you watching from. Let me tell you a story that changed everything I thought I knew about success and second chances. It was a cold Tuesday morning in Seattle when Robert Harrison decided to do something he hadn't done in years. He was going to visit one of his coffee shops in disguise. Now, Robert wasn't just any businessman. He owned Dawn Brew Cafes, a chain of over 40 coffee shops across 6 states. But that morning, he dressed like someone down on his luck. An old jacket from a thrift store, worn-out jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. You see, Robert had a problem. His downtown Seattle location was bleeding employees. In the past year, more than 24 people had quit or been fired. That's almost the entire staff turning over in less than a year. The numbers on his reports told him something was terribly wrong. But numbers don't tell you the whole story. For that, you have to show up and see for yourself. As Robert walked through the door of the coffee shop, the smell of fresh coffee and baking pastries hit him. The place looked busy. Customers lined up at the counter, phones buzzing, the espresso machine hissing. And that's when he saw her. Her name was Sarah Jenkins. She moved through the chaos like a dancer who knew every step by heart. She was maybe in her late 20s with her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she handled 6 different things at once without breaking a sweat. She caught a falling cup before it could shatter. She calmed down an angry customer with a smile and a fresh drink. She counted change in her head faster than the register could calculate it. Robert sat in a corner booth and watched. This woman was good, really good, but something was off. Every few minutes, Sarah would glance toward the back room. Her hand would slip into her apron pocket to check her phone. Her shoulders would tense up, and then quietly she disappeared into the storage area. A few minutes passed. More time ticked by. The other baristas scrambled to cover for her. Some rolled their eyes. One whispered something that made another laugh. When Sarah came back out, Robert could see it clearly. She'd been crying. Before Robert could even think about what to do next, a door slammed open so hard it made everyone jump. Jenkins. The voice cut through every conversation in the shop. Everyone turned to look. The man who came storming out was named Brian Keller, and his name tag said, manager. He was maybe in his mid-40s with the kind of face that enjoyed having power over other people. What the hell were you doing back there? Brian's voice got louder with every word. Do you know how many customers we lost because you disappeared? Robert looked around. No customers had left. The other baristas had covered everything smoothly. This wasn't about business. This was about control. Sir, I was only gone for a short while. Sarah started. You've been abandoning your post. That's not true. Don't you dare contradict me. Brian stepped closer, invading her space in a way that made Robert's hands tighten around his coffee cup. I know exactly what you've been doing. You think I'm stupid. You think I don't notice what happens in my own shop. Sarah's voice dropped, desperate. Mr. Keller, please, can we talk about this in your office? Please. Oh, now you want privacy after you've been hiding your sick kid in my storage room. The words fell like bombs. The whole coffee shop went silent. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some looked away. Others stared, unable to look away from the scene unfolding. Sarah's face crumpled for just a second before she forced it back together. My daughter has a high fever. The daycare wouldn't take her. I called everyone I know, and nobody could help on short notice. My mom lives hours away in Portland. I couldn't miss another shift. You said too many absences meant automatic termination. I thought if I could just make it through today. Her voice broke. She's not near the food. She's in the supply closet in the very back, away from everything. I made sure. I made absolutely sure. I don't care what you made sure of. Brian crossed his arms, clearly enjoying the attention. You brought a sick child into my workplace. That's grounds for immediate termination. Please. Tears were streaming down Sarah's face now. I just need today. I need today's pay. I'll figure something out for tomorrow. I promise. Please don't do this. You should have thought about that before you turned my storage room into a daycare. Brian raised his voice so everyone could hear. Sarah Jenkins, you're fired. Effective immediately. Get your things, get your kid, and get out. The coffee shop had gone completely silent. Even the espresso machine seemed to have stopped hissing. The only sound was soft jazz playing from the speakers, cheerful and completely wrong for what was happening. Mr. Keller. Sarah tried one more time, her voice small and broken. You have a few minutes. If you're still here after that, I'm calling the police. Sarah stood frozen for a moment. Then with her head held as high as she could manage, she walked toward the storage room. She came out less than a minute later carrying a little girl, maybe around 5 years old, wrapped in a jacket too thin for the Seattle rain. The child's face was flushed with fever, her small body limp against her mother's shoulder. Sarah walked past Brian without looking at him. She walked past the other workers. She walked past the customers. And for just a second, as she passed Robert's booth, their eyes met. In that brief moment, Robert saw everything. The fear of a mother with nowhere to turn. The exhaustion of someone who'd been fighting too long with too little. The desperate calculation of someone trying to figure out how to pay for medicine, for food, for a roof, when they had exactly 0 options left. It was a look Robert remembered from decades ago when he and his mother had nothing. Sarah pushed through the door into the damp Seattle weather. She had no car that Robert could see. She just started walking, her daughter pressed against her chest, disappearing into the gray morning. And Robert Harrison made a decision that would change everything. Robert didn't follow Sarah into the rain, not yet. Instead, he stood up, walked directly to where Brian Keller stood, looking satisfied with himself, and said quietly, Mr. Keller, I need you to tell me your full name and position. Brian barely glanced at him, taking in the shabby jacket and worn-out clothes. His lip curled. I'm the manager. If you've got a complaint about what just happened, you can. Brian Keller, manager at the downtown Seattle location. Employed by Dawn Brew Cafes for several years. Transferred multiple times in those years. Robert's voice was quiet, but something in his tone made Brian's smirk disappear. So many employees have quit or been fired in the past months. Would you say that's accurate? Brian's face went pale. Who are you? Robert pulled out his real wallet and showed his ID. Robert Harrison, I own this company and you're fired. Effective immediately. You can't. I have rights. There are procedures. There are procedures for a lot of things, including documenting a pattern of harassment and creating a hostile work environment. Robert's voice was like ice. You'll be contacted by HR within the hour. Leave now. Brian grabbed his jacket and stormed out, slamming the door. Robert turned to the stunned staff. Who's the assistant manager? A woman in her 30s stepped forward cautiously. That's me, Lisa Chen. Miss Chen, you're the interim manager as of now. Can you handle the rest of today? Yes, sir. Absolutely. Good. Everyone else back to work. Robert walked out to his car already pulling out his phone. He had his assistant, Margaret, on the line before he even started the engine. Margaret, I need everything you can find on Sarah Jenkins. She was just fired from our downtown location. Employment file background, whatever you can get legally. Hours later, Margaret called back with information that made Robert's chest tight. Sarah Jenkins, age in her late 20s, bachelor's degree in hospitality management from the University of Washington, graduated with honors several years ago. After graduation, she worked at the Lakeside Inn for a few years as an operations coordinator. Her supervisor's note said, natural leader, consistently exceeds expectations. Has real management potential. Then there was a gap. A couple of years with no employment. What does she say about the gap? Robert asked. Family medical emergency. Spouse deceased. Margaret's voice was gentle. I found a marriage license from years ago. Sarah Carter married Thomas Jenkins and a death certificate from some time ago. Thomas Jenkins, age around 30. Cause of death, cancer. There it was. The story behind everything. What about her financial situation? Significant medical debt, hospital bills, treatments. Total across collection agencies is substantial. Car was repossessed months ago. She's currently renting month to month in a building with multiple code violations. In Robert, she has a daughter named Emily, around 5 years old. Robert closed his eyes. Send me everything. In Margaret, I need the full file on Brian Keller. Every complaint, every incident, everything that was swept under the rug. The files arrived within minutes. Robert spent the next hours reading, his anger building with each page. Brian Keller had a pattern of behavior that stretched back years. Complaints from employees about stolen tips, verbal harassment, unfair treatment. Each time he'd been moved to a new location instead of being fired. Someone in HR had been playing musical chairs with the problem instead of solving it. That person was going to have a very uncomfortable meeting with Robert very soon. But right now, he needed to focus on Sarah Jenkins. Robert stared at her application photo, a professional headshot showing a young woman with a warm smile and confident eyes. The person he'd seen today had been a shadow of that, worn down by life, defeated by circumstances that should never defeat anyone. Robert thought about his own story. When he was a young boy, his mother had lost her job. They'd been evicted from their apartment. They lived in their car for months, parked behind different businesses, trying to stay invisible. His mother would cry at night when she thought he was asleep, trying to figure out how to feed them, how to keep them safe. Then a woman named Margaret Lee had found them. Margaret owned a small bakery. Instead of calling the police, she gave Robert's mother a job, a small apartment above the bakery, and something more valuable than either, dignity. Margaret Lee used to say, "People don't fail because they're lazy or stupid. They fail because nobody ever gives them a real chance." Those words had built Robert's entire company. Every policy, every benefit, every decision came back to that principle. And somehow managers like Brian Keller had created exactly the opposite environment. Robert picked up his phone and called the number on Sarah's application. It rang several times. Then, "Hello." Her voice was exhausted, defeated. "Ms. Jenkins, this is Robert Harrison. I own Dawn Brew Cafes. I witnessed what happened this morning and I'd like to talk to you about it. Would you be willing to meet?" A long silence. "Am I in trouble?" "Because if this is about legal, you're not in trouble. The opposite, actually. Mr. Keller has been terminated, but I'd like to discuss your situation. Would you meet me tomorrow at the coffee shop? Say afternoon. It'll be quiet between the lunch and afternoon rush. I don't understand. Why would you want to help me? Because what happened to you is wrong. Because I think you deserve better. And because someone gave me and my mother a chance when we had nothing. I've spent years trying to pay that forward. Will you give me the chance to explain?" Another long silence. "Afternoon tomorrow," Sarah finally said. "Okay, I'll be there." After she hung up, Robert sat in his office and looked out at the Seattle skyline. He'd made the first move. Now, he needed to figure out what came next. He'd never done anything quite like this before. Singling out one person for direct help. Usually he worked on systems and policies meant to help everyone. This was different. This was personal. But maybe that was the point. Maybe sometimes you had to help one person directly to understand what needed to change for everyone. Robert opened a new document on his laptop and started writing. Not just a plan for Sarah Jenkins, but a complete overhaul of how Dawn Brew Cafes supported employees in crisis. By the time he finished, it was late. But he had a plan. And tomorrow afternoon, he'd find out if Sarah Jenkins was willing to take a chance on something different. Sarah arrived at exactly the appointed time, carrying Emily on her hip. The little girl looked better. The fever medicine had worked, and her eyes were brighter, but she clung to her mother like she was afraid to let go. Robert was already there, waiting in a booth. He stood when they approached, and Sarah noticed he looked different than yesterday. Less shabby. The watch was expensive. The whole presentation said money and power. She felt a flutter of nervousness in her stomach. "Miss Jenkins, thank you for coming. Please sit down." Robert gestured to the booth. "Can I get you anything? Something to drink? Something for Emily?" "We're fine." Sarah sat down, keeping Emily close. "You said you wanted to talk." "I do, but first I want to apologize." Robert's voice was sincere, his eyes direct. "What happened to you yesterday was completely unacceptable. Mr. Keller's behavior violated everything my company is supposed to stand for. He's been terminated and he won't work in any of my locations again." Sarah's eyes widened. "You fired him because of me." "I fired him because of a pattern of behavior that should have been addressed years ago. What happened to you was just the final incident." Robert leaned forward slightly. "Ms. Jenkins, I looked at your employment file. I hope you'll forgive that, but I needed to understand who you are. I know about your degree, your work at the Lakeside Inn, and about your husband. I'm very sorry for your loss." Sarah stiffened. "You investigated me. I reviewed what was available to me as your employer and looked at public records. Nothing invasive. But yes, I wanted to understand your situation before I came to you with a proposal." "What kind of proposal?" Sarah's voice was cautious. "I'd like to offer you a position as assistant manager at this location. You'd work under Lisa Chen, who's been promoted to manager. The position pays a solid salary with full benefits, health insurance, dental, vision, paid time off, and access to our employee support program." Sarah stared at him like he'd spoken in a different language. "That's not funny. I'm not joking." Robert pulled out a folder. "I watched you work yesterday morning. You're efficient. You handle pressure well. You have excellent people skills. Your degree is in hospitality management. You graduated with honors. Your previous supervisor said you showed natural leadership. You're more than qualified for this position. You watched me work for what, a couple of hours? And you want to make me a manager?" Sarah's voice was sharp with disbelief. "There has to be a catch. Some reason you're doing this." "No catch." Robert's voice gentled. "Just recognition that you have potential being wasted because life pushed you into survival mode. Miss Jenkins, I know what it's like to have nothing. When I was young, my mother and I were homeless. We lived in her car for months in this city. We had nowhere to go, no way out." Sarah's expression shifted, surprise breaking through the skepticism. "A bakery owner named Margaret Lee found us sleeping in our car behind her shop. She could have called the police. Instead, she gave my mother a job, an apartment, and a chance. She told my mother something I've never forgotten. People don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because nobody ever gives them a real chance." Robert met Sarah's eyes. "I built my company on that principle, and I've failed at it. I've let managers like Brian Keller create environments that punish people for being human. So, this is me trying to do what I should have been doing all along." "So, this is guilt," Sarah said. "You feel bad. This is recognizing an opportunity to help someone who deserves it." Robert slid the folder across the table. "Inside is information about our Employee Assistance Fund. It can help with temporary housing, emergency expenses, child care costs, the things that create impossible situations like the one you were in yesterday." Sarah opened the folder with shaking hands. Her eyes scanned the documents, widening as she read. Subsidized rent, interest-free emergency loans, childcare assistance, all available to employees who needed help. "And you're just offering this to me?" Sarah's voice cracked. "I don't understand why." "Because I can. Because it's right, and because..." Robert paused, choosing his words carefully. "Because I think you'll be excellent at this job. Because I think you can do much more than just survive. And because someone gave my mother and me a chance when we had nothing. And I've spent years trying to pay that forward." Sarah looked down at Emily, who had fallen asleep against her chest. She thought about the eviction notice, about the debt collectors who called every day, about the car she'd lost, the credit she'd destroyed, the future that had seemed to close down to nothing but trying to survive each day. She thought about Thomas, about the life they'd planned, about how none of it had gone the way it was supposed to. and she thought about this man sitting across from her offering something that seemed too good to be true. What if I'm not good at it? She asked quietly. What if I take this job and I fail? Then we figure out why and what you need to succeed. Maybe it's more training. Maybe it's a different position. Maybe something else. Robert's expression was earnest. I'm not expecting perfection. I'm expecting you to work hard, learn, and care about doing good work. From what I've seen, you already do all three. Sarah took a shaky breath. The other employees, they're going to know what happened. They're going to think I got special treatment probably. Robert acknowledged. You'll have to prove yourself. You'll have to work harder than anyone to earn their respect. That's not fair, but it's reality. Can you handle that? Sarah thought about everything she'd handled in the past years. Watching Thomas die, raising Emily alone, working multiple jobs, dealing with debt collectors, facing eviction. If she could handle all of that, she could handle some resentful coworkers. Yes, she said firmly. I can handle it. Robert extended his hand across the table. Then, do we have a deal? Will you take the assistant manager position? Sarah looked at his hand, at his face, at the folder full of possibilities. She thought about pride, about accepting help, about what Thomas would want for her and Emily. She reached out and shook his hand. Yes, I'll take it. Good. Robert smiled. Welcome to Dawn Brew Cafes, Assistant Manager Jenkins. Monday morning arrived cold and clear. Sarah stood outside the coffee shop early, trying to calm the butterflies in her stomach. The weekend had been a whirlwind. Margaret had called with a list of landlords who worked with Dawn Brew's housing program. By the next day, Sarah had toured a small 2-bedroom apartment a few miles from the shop and signed a lease, affordable for a short term, then adjusting to a subsidized rate after that. It wasn't big, but it was clean, safe, and warm. Most importantly, it came with no eviction notice. They'd moved in soon after. By the following day, Emily was calling it their castle, running from room to room with pure joy. The health insurance had been processed. Emily's doctor appointment was scheduled. The debt collectors were being contacted by Dawn Brew's legal team about settlements. An interest-free loan was being processed to help with the settled amounts. It all felt like a dream. But now, wearing her new assistant manager shirt with her name embroidered on it, holding the keys to the coffee shop, Sarah knew she was about to face the hardest part, the other employees. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and unlocked the door. The morning crew was already gathered inside. A group of people, including Lisa Chen, who stood at the front looking professional and neutral. The moment Sarah entered, every conversation stopped. The reactions ranged from surprise to curiosity to skepticism to open hostility. A barista named Megan, who'd worked there for years, crossed her arms and stared. "Good morning, everyone," Lisa said. "This is Sarah Jenkins. As of today, she's our new assistant manager. Sarah, would you like to say a few words?" Sarah stepped forward, feeling every eye on her. "I know this is unusual," she started, keeping her voice steady. "I know some of you have questions. I'm not going to pretend everything's normal because it's not." A few people shifted their weight. "Last week, I was fired for bringing my sick daughter to work. Some of you saw it happen. Mr. Harrison was here and witnessed it. He decided it was wrong. Both the firing and whatever led to it. He looked at my background and decided to give me a chance." "Convenient," Megan muttered, just loud enough to be heard. Sarah didn't take the bait. "I can't change how I got this position. I can't make it seem fair. All I can do is prove through my work that I deserve to keep it. I'm asking for a month. If after a month you still think I shouldn't be here, I'll understand." "Why should we trust you?" A barista named Juan spoke up. He'd been there a while. "You were here a short time. Now you're our boss. What about Lisa? What about the rest of us?" It was a fair question. "You shouldn't trust me. Not yet. Trust is earned." Sarah looked directly at Juan. "I can't speak to what happened before. What I can tell you is that I'm going to work alongside you, not just give orders. I'm going to learn every position until I know it thoroughly. I'm going to listen to your concerns and try to address them." And I'm going to try to make this place better for everyone. Easy to say, someone called out. You're right. That's why I'm asking you to watch what I do and judge me on that. A month. That's all I'm asking. Lisa stepped in. All right, we've got a shop to open soon. Let's get to work. Sarah, you're with me. As the group dispersed, Sarah caught the looks being exchanged. Some curious, some resentful, some waiting to see what would happen. This was going to be hard. But Sarah had been fighting uphill battles for years. She could do this. The day was brutal, not because of the work. She knew how to make coffee, handle customers, keep things moving. What was brutal was being constantly watched, constantly judged, constantly having to prove herself with every single action. Lisa walked her through everything. Inventory checks, equipment maintenance, prep work, verification, supply ordering. It was a lot to learn, but Sarah had always been a fast learner. During the morning rush, Lisa had Sarah jump in wherever needed, running orders, helping at the register, even working the espresso machine during the busiest moments. She made mistakes. She forgot to add the foam to a cappuccino. She dropped a cup, but she didn't make excuses. She apologized, corrected herself, and kept moving. You're not afraid to work, said Mark, the main morning barista. His voice was neutral, but his eyes were slightly less cold than before. Can't afford to be, Sarah replied, already moving to the next order. Fair enough. At the end of the morning shift, Sarah gathered everyone for a quick meeting. Lisa had suggested this a chance to address issues and set expectations. Thank you all for today, Sarah said. I know I slowed some of you down, but I also noticed things that need fixing. Mark, I saw you favoring your right wrist by the end of the shift. How long has it been bothering you? Mark looked surprised. A while, repetitive motion from the espresso machine. It is what it is. We should get ergonomic mats and better positioning for the machine. I'm going to request that today as a safety improvement. She looked around. The ice machine has been making that grinding sound. That needs to be fixed before it breaks completely. The storage room door sticks. That's a safety issue. And Juan, I noticed you're scheduled for many closing shifts in a row. That's excessive and exhausting. Juan looked surprised to be called out by name. Here's what I'm learning about management, Sarah continued. It's not just about making sure the work gets done. It's about making sure the people doing the work have what they need to do it well. If something's making your job harder, I want to know so I can try to fix it. What about tips? Megan's voice was sharp, challenging. Brian used to skim tips. Everyone knew it. Is that going to stop? It already has stopped, Sarah said firmly, meeting Megan's hostile gaze. As of today, tips are tracked transparently. At the end of each shift, you count your tips with either Lisa or me as a witness. Your money goes home with you. Period. If money goes missing, we investigate immediately. Even if it's you taking it, Megan challenged. Especially if it's me, because I've been on your side of this. I know what it's like to work for tips and watch them disappear. That ends here. Some of the other baristas looked interested, hopeful even. As the group dispersed, Lisa pulled Sarah aside. That was well done. Specific issues, specific commitments. People respond to that. Did I overpromise? No. Harrison gave you discretionary budget. Use it. Lisa paused. I should tell you, I was angry when I heard about your promotion. I've been here a while doing good work and then you got promoted because you had a sad story. Sarah winced but nodded. That's fair. But today, watching you work, watching you pay attention to people and their problems. I'm starting to think maybe Harrison saw something I didn't, maybe he was right. Does that mean you'll work with me? It means I'll give you a fair shot. Prove you deserve to be here and I'll have your back. Fail and I'll tell Harrison it's not working. That's all I can ask for, Sarah said, offering her hand. Lisa shook it. Don't let me down. That night, after Emily was asleep, Sarah sat at their small kitchen table making lists, things to learn, things to fix, names of employees, and what she'd observed about each one. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. How was day one, Robert Harrison? Sarah stared at it, then typed back. Exhausting, terrifying, harder than I expected, but I think I can do this. The response came quickly. I never doubted it. Rest well. Tomorrow's another day. Sarah smiled despite her exhaustion. One day down, many to go. She'd survived worse. She could survive this. The month passed like a compressed season, each day bringing new challenges and small victories. The ergonomic mats arrived soon. Mark stood on one during his shift, and by the end of the day, his wrist pain was noticeably better. "How's the wrist?" Sarah asked. "Better," he said simply. "Thanks." It wasn't much, but it was something. The ice machine got fixed shortly after Sarah called maintenance directly. The storage room door got repaired. The employee meal policy got expanded. 1 full meal per shift, no restrictions. "If you're here long hours, you shouldn't be hungry," Sarah announced. "That's basic dignity." Juan actually smiled at that. The schedule got completely redesigned to ensure fair distribution of shifts, adequate time off, and nobody working to exhaustion. "You didn't have to do this," Juan said. "Yes, I did," Sarah replied. "People can't do their best work if they're exhausted." But not everyone was won over. Weeks in, Megan cornered Sarah in the storage room. Her face was tight with anger. "I know what you're doing. You're playing nice, making little changes, trying to win everyone over. But I see through it." "What do you think you see?" Sarah asked calmly. "That Harrison felt sorry for you and handed you something you didn't earn. We've all had hard times. We don't all get promoted for it." "You're right," Sarah said quietly. "You've struggled and didn't get help. That's wrong. That's exactly what I'm trying to fix. So the next person who has an emergency doesn't have to choose between their job and their family." "How noble," Megan sneered. "You get special treatment and call it fixing the system." "I did get special treatment. I can't change that." Sarah held her gaze. "What I can do is try to make this place better for everyone going forward. You don't have to like me, but I'm going to be here doing this job whether you approve or not." Megan stared at her, then walked out without another word. That evening, Sarah recounted the confrontation to Lisa. "Not everyone's going to come around," Lisa said. "Some people will resent you no matter what. You can't win them all." "I know, but I have to try. Why does it matter so much?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Because someone gave me a chance when I didn't deserve it. When I had nothing but desperation and hope. Someone looked at me and decided I was worth investing in. That changed everything. If I can do that for even one other person, it's worth it." Lisa studied her. "You really believe that?" "I have to. If I don't, what's the point?" On the last day of the month, Robert Harrison returned during the lunch rush. He sat in his usual corner booth, watching. Sarah moved through the space with confidence now. When Mark got slammed with orders, she jumped in without being asked. When a customer started complaining, she intercepted smoothly. When Juan looked overwhelmed, she quietly helped without making it obvious. Robert watched it all, making notes. After the rush died down, Sarah slid into the booth across from him. "So," Robert said, "how did your month go?" "Harder than I expected. Better than I hoped." Sarah pulled out her phone. "We've made operational improvements. The mats reduced physical complaints significantly. We fixed safety issues. We overhauled scheduling for fairness. We implemented transparent tip tracking. And the staff mixed. Some supportive from the start, some came around gradually, some still skeptical. Megan's actively hostile, but most of them, I think most of them are starting to believe I deserve to be here." Robert smiled. "Lisa's assessment matches yours. She says you've worked harder than any new manager she's seen, that you've earned respect, that you make good decisions." He paused. "She also said you're ready for this to be permanent." Sarah felt her heart jump. "Really? As of today, the assistant manager position is yours permanently." Robert's eyes were serious, "But I want to talk about what comes next. These are the numbers for this location over the past month." He showed her his phone. "Customer satisfaction up, employee turnover down, revenue up. Those are significant improvements. I was just fixing obvious problems. That's what good management is." He put his phone away. "I want you to keep learning. Take on more responsibility. Start thinking about what comes after assistant manager. Like what? Full manager. Like overseeing multiple locations. Training other managers. You've proved you can turn a struggling shop around. Imagine what you could do with more resources. I've only been doing this for a month and you've accomplished more than some managers do in years. I'm not saying tomorrow. I'm saying prepare yourself for bigger challenges because they're coming. Months later, Robert's phone rang in the middle of the night. His mother had a stroke. He flew to San Francisco immediately and suddenly his entire world shifted to hospital rooms and rehabilitation and watching his strong mother struggle with basic tasks. He tried to manage the business from San Francisco, but it was impossible. That's when he called Sarah. "How's your mother?" she asked. "Improving, but slowly," watching her struggle. His voice cracked. When Thomas was sick, Sarah said softly, "The hardest part wasn't the big moments. It was the everyday struggle. Watching someone you love fight so hard just to do simple things. Feeling helpless because you can't fight it for them." Yes, exactly. What helped me was accepting that my job wasn't to fix him. I couldn't cure the cancer. All I could do was be there. That's what your mother needs from you now. Not solutions, just presence. Over the next weeks, Robert called Sarah late at night when the fear was loudest. They talked about his mother's progress, about the guilt and frustration, about learning to let go of control. "Don't try to manage everything from San Francisco," Sarah told him. "You hired good people. Trust us. Your mother needs you more than the business." As the weeks turned into months, Sarah took on more responsibilities at the coffee shop. She started training new hires, implementing new policies that improved efficiency, and even helping Lisa with budgeting. One day, a new employee named Alex came in, looking nervous on his first shift. Sarah noticed him struggling with the espresso machine and pulled him aside gently. "It's okay," she said. "Everyone starts somewhere. Let me show you a trick I learned." Alex relaxed and by the end of the day, he was handling orders smoothly. "Thanks," he said. "I was worried I'd mess up." "We all mess up sometimes," Sarah replied. "The important thing is to learn from it." Meanwhile, Robert's mother's recovery was slow but steady. He shared updates with Sarah during their calls. "She's walking with a cane now," he said one night. "It's progress, but she gets frustrated." "That's normal," Sarah assured him. "Give her time. You're doing the right thing by being there." Back at the shop, Sarah faced a new challenge when a major supplier delayed deliveries, causing shortages during a busy week. Instead of panicking, she rallied the team. "Let's get creative," she said. "We'll promote alternative drinks and make sure customers leave happy." The team pulled together, and by the end of the week, sales hadn't dropped. Lisa praised her. "You handled that like a pro." Sarah smiled. "I learned from the best." As time went on, even Megan began to soften. One afternoon, after a particularly tough rush, Megan approached Sarah. "I was wrong about you," she admitted grudgingly. "You've made this place better." Sarah nodded. "Thanks. That means a lot." With Robert still away, Sarah started overseeing 2 nearby locations temporarily. She visited them, identified similar issues like unfair scheduling and equipment problems, and began implementing changes. At one shop, she discovered an employee named Maria who was dealing with family issues similar to her own past struggles. Sarah connected her with the Employee Assistance Program, helping her secure childcare support. "You're a lifesaver," Maria said. "No," Sarah replied, "I'm just paying it forward." Robert returned after several months, his mother stable enough for him to resume work. He visited the downtown shop and was impressed by the changes. "You've transformed this place," he told Sarah. "And not just here, the other locations too." Sarah shrugged. "I had good guidance." Robert offered her a promotion to regional manager, overseeing multiple shops. "You've earned it," he said. "Think about it." Sarah did, and accepted. In her new role, she trained managers on compassionate leadership, emphasizing support for employees in crisis. She shared her story in training sessions, inspiring others. One trainee, a young manager named Kevin, confided in her about his own struggles. Sarah listened and helped him access resources. Years later, Dawn Brew cafes became known not just for coffee, but for its employee-friendly policies. Robert and Sarah co-authored a company handbook on second chances. Sarah's life had changed completely. Emily was thriving in school, and Sarah had paid off her debts. She often thought back to that cold morning, grateful for the chance she'd been given. In Robert, he continued paying it forward, knowing that one act of kindness could ripple out to change many lives. But let's dive deeper into how Sarah's first week unfolded. On day 2, she arrived even earlier, determined to master the opening procedures. Lisa showed her how to balance the registers and check inventory levels. During the rush, a regular customer complained about a wrong order. Sarah stepped in, apologizing sincerely and offering a free drink. The customer left satisfied, even leaving a tip. Small wins like that built her confidence. By day 3, she was handling supplier calls, negotiating better terms for pastries. Juan noticed and commented, "You're really diving in." Sarah smiled. "I want to make sure we have what we need." Day 4 brought a team meeting where Sarah introduced a suggestion box for employee ideas. Mark submitted one about better lighting in the back room. She acted on it quickly, installing new fixtures. "Thanks for listening," Mark said. "Of course," Sarah replied. "Your input matters." On day 5, a minor crisis hit when the espresso machine broke down. Sarah stayed calm, directing traffic to other stations while calling for repairs. The team appreciated her poise. Lisa noted, "You're a natural." The weekend was quieter, giving Sarah time to review reports. She spotted trends in peak hours and suggested adjusting staffing. Lisa agreed, and they implemented it the following week. As the second week began, Sarah focused on building relationships. She learned about Juan's passion for art and encouraged him to design a new menu board. It became a hit with customers. Megan remained distant, but Sarah didn't push. Instead, she led by example, staying late to help clean. One evening, Megan stayed too. "Why do you care so much?" she asked. "Because this is more than a job to me," Sarah answered. "It's a second chance." Megan didn't respond, but her attitude shifted slightly. Week 3 saw Sarah tackling training. She created a manual for new hires, simplifying processes. When a new barista started, Sarah personally trained her, making her feel welcome. The shop's atmosphere improved, with laughter during breaks. Customers noticed, leaving positive reviews. In week 4, Sarah organized a team-building event, a casual coffee tasting. Everyone shared favorites, fostering camaraderie. Even Megan participated, suggesting a new blend. By month's end, the shop was running smoother than ever. Sarah's efforts paid off, earning her the permanent role. But her journey didn't stop there. In the following months, she mentored Lisa on advanced management, preparing her for potential promotion. When a company-wide policy change came, Sarah advocated for better parental leave, drawing from her experience. Robert supported it, implementing it across all locations. One day, Sarah received a call from a former colleague at the Lakeside Inn. "Heard about your success," she said. "Proud of you." Sarah thanked her, reflecting on how far she'd come. Emily's birthday arrived, and Sarah threw a small party in their new apartment. Friends from work attended, including Lisa and Mark. It was a moment of joy, symbolizing her new life. As regional manager, Sarah visited shops regularly, identifying talents like a barista with marketing ideas. She promoted him, watching him thrive. Challenges arose, like a competitor opening nearby, but Sarah's strategies, loyalty programs and community events, kept customers coming. Robert and Sarah became close colleagues, often discussing vision. During one meeting, he shared more about his past. "My mother taught me resilience," he said. Sarah nodded. "Mine too." Their bond strengthened the company. Years on, Sarah spoke at industry conferences, sharing her story. Attendees approached her, inspired to implement similar programs. One woman said, "You gave me hope." Sarah smiled. "That's the point." Back home, Emily asked about her day. Sarah hugged her. "Helping people, sweetie. Just like someone helped us." The story of Robert and Sarah reminds us that kindness can transform lives. It's not just about success, it's about lifting others. And that's what truly changes the world. Now, let's expand on the early days of Sarah's marriage to Thomas. They met in college, both studying hospitality. Thomas was charming, with a laugh that lit up rooms. Their wedding was simple, in a park with close friends. Dreams of opening their own cafe filled their conversations. But life threw curves. Thomas's diagnosis came suddenly. Sarah stood by him through treatments, balancing work and care. Nights were long, filled with worry. Emily's birth brought joy amid pain. Thomas held her, whispering promises. His passing left a void, but Sarah pushed on for Emily. Debt piled up, forcing tough choices. The job at Dawn Brew was a lifeline, until that fateful day. Reflecting, Sarah realized every hardship built her strength. In her new role, she created support groups for employees facing loss. One member, a barista grieving a parent, found solace. Sarah's empathy made a difference. Robert's own reflections during his mother's illness deepened his commitment. He established a foundation for homeless families, naming it after Margaret Lee. Sarah joined the board, expanding its reach. Together, they hosted fundraisers, raising funds for housing and job training. One event featured stories from beneficiaries, including a mother like Sarah once was. Tears flowed as she thanked them. The impact spread, a chain reaction of kindness. Employees at other companies heard and advocated for changes. Media covered the story, calling it a model for corporate compassion. Robert and Sarah appeared in interviews, emphasizing human elements in business. Critics called it PR, but results proved otherwise: lower turnover, higher morale. Personally, Sarah dated again, cautiously. A kind teacher named Paul entered her life, understanding her past. Emily adored him. Robert found balance, visiting his mother often. She recovered fully, proud of his work. Holidays brought everyone together: Sarah, Emily, Robert, his mother. Laughter filled the air, a far cry from their struggles. The coffee shop where it started became a flagship, with a plaque honoring second chances. Visitors read it, inspired. Sarah often stopped by, remembering that cold morning. What if Robert hadn't been there? But he was, and everything changed. This story teaches that one act can spark endless good. Look for opportunities to help. You never know the ripple. And that's the true power of hope. To make this even longer, let's imagine the detailed conversations during Robert's late-night calls. One night, he said, "I feel guilty leaving the company." Sarah replied, "Guilt won't help her. Be present." Another call, he shared childhood memories. "We had nothing, but Mom always found ways to make it fun." Sarah shared, "Thomas did that too, even sick." Their talks built trust. When Robert returned, he thanked her. "You kept me grounded." "Anytime," she said. In her regional role, Sarah faced a crisis, a shop flood. She coordinated repairs, supporting staff. They reopened stronger. Success bred confidence. She pursued an MBA part-time, with company support. Graduation day, Robert attended, cheering loudly. Emily beamed. Life's full-circle moments. The company expanded, opening in new states. Sarah led the launches, ensuring core values. One opening, she met a young entrepreneur inspired by her story. "Mentor me," he asked. "Gladly," she said. The cycle continued. Reflecting years later, Sarah wrote a book, Second Chances Brewed. It became a bestseller, touching hearts. Robert wrote the foreword. Proceeds funded scholarships. Emily, now teen, volunteered at the foundation. "Mom, you're my hero," she said. Sarah hugged her. "We're all heroes when we help each other." And so, the story lives on, a testament to compassion's enduring power.